so they could fill that gap with their leaves. But as an employer, I feel we would also attempt to try to find them work if applicable, to not go into this situation because there's a limited amount of income. After the categories, I have a couple statements. One regarding negative leave balances. Employees with insufficient paid leave may request authorization to allow leave balances to become negative. The city administrator will review requests on a case-by-case basis. And that's kind of punting on that. That's a scenario where, say, you do have several kids, family members, you have to be out for quite some time. We may allow employees to go negative in their banks. Hennepin County is doing that, for example, up to a cap. And then they actually have a policy in place where if you stay employed with the city for 1 year, we'll forgive some of it. 2 years, we'll forgive some of it. So it's encouraging them to stay with the employer as well. Regarding the COVID-19 pay, there's also a clause here that says it shall not carry over from 1 year to the next. And that's per the legislation, what we want to put in here. So if this is all over with, anyone who's not used the COVID pay, it's gone. It's not just carried over. And then I did make a note here that an employer does have an ability to send an employee home. Obviously, we take that very seriously, but I just want to note that. So what I'm asking for, excuse me, is a motion to, after discussion, approve as drafted and authorize myself to amend as necessary to comply with federal law. The only areas we're really diverging from is there is an ability to cap the amount of pay, the amount of wage for the 80 hours for full-time employees at an amount per day. I would be the only impacted employee by that. Everyone else would be lower than that, so we could move that, and I would be the only one not getting my full pay. I just decided to keep everyone the same way before I knew the answer to that, by the way. So that's the gist of it, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
The changes that you make, if you put in there just that if any changes are made, that obviously we will be made aware of that.
Correct, and I want to do an after-the-fact approval again back to the council at some point. We're still learning about this really half day by half day. The guidance, I don't know, has even been published that I think we have to post tomorrow. So we're learning about this, but yes, my intent would be to bring back any amendments to the council as an update at a council meeting.
Any other
I
questions?
appreciate you getting this to us in a prompt fashion. I'm sure that the employees of the city of Corcoran are grateful that they know the rules and are able to follow the rules. The uncertainty will drive a person crazy. So thanks for getting this to us promptly.
Do we have any seasonal employees on staff right now, other than plow drivers?
Correct, plow drivers, but that's really not active at this point. The next seasonal will be the summer seasonal for Public Works.
Okay. If this extends to that time frame, would we still look at adding those people on staff, or would we put that on hold?
We're planning on adding those staff at this point. We're already down one full-time Public Works person at this point, and we got to start mowing lawns and everything else. So our intention is to fill those positions right now. We do have 4 applicants, I believe. Our goal is to hold interviews and then tell them, we intend to hire you and put you on as soon as it makes sense. And if we lose them to other jobs, we lose them to other jobs, but they're doing things such as mowing lawns. So you get on a mower and you're driving around on a mower for your day, not interacting with people, or you're changing garbages. You're doing tasks that need to get done around the city that can be done by yourself. So we're looking to move forward as we can.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I have a question. This is John. Are there any furloughed people over at Public Works who are on unemployment, or is their situation just that they're still employed but getting normal pay at this point, or are they all working?
It Mayor and Council, every employee is still working at this point, and I'll go through that in the next item as well, and the kind of pandemic update that I added to the council meeting in detail.
What was that, Brad? I didn't hear you.
Sorry. Yeah, every employee right now is working. And I'll go over that in detail in the next item, which is the pandemic response update.
Yeah, so just in case, I think Alan's point a little bit, should we have to do something where we have to lay off people, or we can't, like if people have a function that they actually can't do from home, or I would think we'd want to consider those people ahead of maybe part-timers, just for one, it makes sense, but also like for most of the people that live in Corcoran, it's not looked at that great if the city hires people right now. So I would consider all options rather than, we might have to figure out how to tighten belts and stuff and leave things undone that maybe people are used to having done. Like, for example, the ballparks, the parks don't need to be mowed, or the ball fields don't need to be mowed because no one's going to be playing on them. Those kind of things, I would appreciate having that be a consideration before we ramp up summer hiring, because this might go on for a while and it might impact what we actually need done. That's it.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, entertain a motion to approve the plan as drafted and authorize the city administrator to amend it as necessary to comply with federal law.
So moved. Anderson.
Oh, was there a second?
Yeah. It was Dejewski and Anderson, I don't know who did the first and who did the second.
I'll do the second.
Okay, Dejewski, Anderson. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Thomas, aye. Anderson,
Aye.
Bottom,
Aye.
Dejewski,
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, item 10A has been pulled. We're on to item 11A, which is active Corcoran planning applications. We have those. If there are any questions on those or discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item 11B, which is a response update from the mayor and the chief.
Mayor and Council, I'll start first, then I'll turn over to Matt, who's in the room as well. As you all know, the governor did issue an executive order on Wednesday, and there's a stay-at-home or a shelter-in-place order that starts Friday evening at 11:59 p.m. through 5 p.m. on Friday, April 10th. It does not restrict virtual work or telework, and it also does have exemptions for critical sectors, but there is a caveat that says all workers who can work from home must do so. But as far as the local government, we are a critical sector, so we're moving forward. From just day-to-day, staff is holding it together. It is an exhausting pace, I will say, in intensity. Our staff is doing an exceptional job at all levels, but every question has to be raised, and how does one thing impact the other departments and everything else. A good example is setting up this council meeting today. Sounds pretty easy, right? Move the council meeting over to the council chambers. Well, you have to have it loud enough so people can hear it online participating. We also have to record with a camera in the back room so we can post it on the website tomorrow. It's also wonky, as you heard the mayor going through the roll call vote. Statute requires we do a roll call vote instead of everyone saying aye. So we have to do that, call a name. That's not a Corcoran thing, that's a statutory thing. We're communicating as often as we can. We're trying to keep the public informed. Different meeting styles is one the mayor brought up. We're going to find ways to do this from a public hearing standpoint. In June, potentially, we'll have the public hearing related to the Wessel stuff. We know people are going to want to talk about that. There's a concept plan coming forward for the MI homes, formerly Sawgrass. So as early as end of April, we need to make sure we have some opportunities to have public comment in different ways beyond just coming to City Hall. Because even if City Hall would be open or shelter in place is no longer in effect, there are affected individuals with lower immunities that don't want to come to City Hall no matter what. So we're talking about having a conference call with a code number if people want to talk, or whether we do an online meeting. So our goal is to have that up and running as soon as possible. In the meantime, kind of have these types of meetings. Regarding the action I've taken so far related to the order and the council's authority given to me, at this point, related to the governor's order, I have deemed all or classified all corporate employees as essential. So this includes the police department, the public works department, as well as administration. Now that being said, it doesn't mean they all have to work from here. For police, it's pretty basic, and Matt will go through that, of course. They're changing hours and such, and the police officers have to respond. Administration, we've already implementing social distancing, but we are having a work from home schedule for next 2 weeks rather. We'll have 2 employees at City Hall and 2 at home. And we have clear expectations, and there's plenty of work to do that they can do remotely at this point. Public Works is also staggering some of the work they're doing, but they are working as well. We may have a couple work from home. We have a ton of policy updates to go through, right-of-way management, that we need to research what other communities are doing in drafting policy. So we're seeing who has what skill, and we have lots to do. There's also a big shop that they can do different projects, and still we have to do locates for water and sewer and all sorts of other things taking place. We're looking at continuing with crack sealing, for example. That's one person on each task away from each other, so that can maybe still continue. I will be establishing a small stipend to employees working from home where we don't have the device to give them. So we might give them a small stipend for using their own devices. But we're also working through that. That does open up their devices to open meeting law, for example. If people want to search any information, well, if they use their own devices, that has to be discoverable as well, so we're working through that. We've transitioned the recreation coordinator, Jessica Christensen-Buck, over to the police department to assist with emergency operations, and Matt can go through that. So she's now assisting Matt, which is a good thing because we're short-staffed, and Matt will go through that as well. Regarding code enforcement, I've issued an order to have a temporary stoppage of non-immediate life safety code enforcement. A good example is this: I got a call today from a resident, or an email, I guess, from a resident saying, my neighbor is out and about doing an awful lot that looks like a home occupation, come check it out. We can't do that right now, and if there's a life safety thing, we'll check it out. But just, people are at home right now. If they're not working, maybe they're working on their garage. We're making a list of things, and we'll get to it as we can. Essentially, we're stopping. I'm working with our contract code enforcement to give me a list of where all code enforcement is at and where we will have to communicate that we're done with that. Yes, that includes potentially for West Side Tire. So we'll have to think about that as well, and I'll talk to Sean Brewer from this point. But it's a hardship for the city, and further, there are certain people that are having a hardship just maintaining their basic lives. I know for me, having to parent half the time, as well as keep work going, it's difficult, and people are doing that right now as schools closed, so it's really hard to keep functioning. I am drafting an ordinance also removing the May 1st connection requirement for the downtown properties for the council to consider. We've already had several communicate with us. They had planned to do so, but they have significant financial impacts, and having them put $20,000, $30,000 into connecting to the water and sewer is a hardship for them. So I'm drafting that ordinance, potentially extending that. Parks are open, but playgrounds are closed. I kind of missed that with the order, so we're looking at how to close playgrounds. And then the one action item I do have for the council to consider tonight, and that can be after Matt's update, is I want to request the council extend the closure of City Hall to the public through Friday, April 24th. So we'll talk about that. But other than that, development so far has been continuing pushing forward. Bellwether was approved tonight. We did receive an updated concept plan for MI Homes on the former Sawgrass property. We have an open space and preservation plat we got in for 20 homes near County Road 30 in Bechtold. We do assume that we will get the Westfield preliminary plat application soon. We'll likely go to June meetings. We're doing a feasibility study for the Schaummer property, which is just north of Lions Park. That's related to the potential of Applewood Point type things that you've seen in the past. And then we're also waiting the next steps for St. Therese. So everything continues to move forward at this point until it doesn't, I guess. So with that, I'll ask Matt to give his update and we can answer any questions. And Matt's going to walk up to the podium.
All right, thank you. Quick update. So we're trying to keep up. As you can imagine, there's quite a bit of demand on all of our public safety services right now. And we're basically working on doing more with less people. And that's, we're short a couple people on leave. Our police technician just was able to tell us that she got a new opportunity in another state. So she's resigning, and that's gonna hurt us quite a bit. We've been fortunate that Jessica Christensen-Buck's been able to help us. She can still manage what's left of the ongoing parks program, as she's able to in the Emergency Operations Center. But that we've now opened up our City Emergency Operations Center in the council chambers, which is one of the other reasons why we're looking at the council meeting tonight in the community center. And that decision was actually, twofold. And the community center allows us for more distancing, and we can actually are able to have a public meeting easier in the community center than in that one with the social distancing requirements. But also for our Emergency Operations Center moving in there, we have some technology needs, and we also have to be able to fit, at least a handful of people in our Emergency Operations Center if need be, and we couldn't do that in our previous meeting room. What is the Emergency Operations Center doing right now is a pretty frequent question. And really the primary things that they're tracking, the different things that are happening in the community so we can identify conflicts. It's really a planning tool for us. We're tracking supplies as far as PPE and what the burn rate is on that, trying to see what we can find out there in order to get PPE for our officers. We're competing with the rest of the world for the same supplies, so we're a small fish in a big pond as far as that's concerned. We're trying to track our finances, the staff know how much money are we currently going through. We have the right amount of liquid assets going forward, and being able to project that for finance to know what their needs are, and really keep an eye on where we're at, tracking what communications we put out and how we're putting them out, how we're communicating with our residents. And we're adopting that throughout the entire city, so the same way we're trying to coordinate what messages does Public Works need to put out, public safety, city admin, and tracking the best way to do that. We're tracking not only our staffing and our modified schedules of the city employees, but also law enforcement, and also the communities around us, because in the same way that we're in a modified state of business, so is every other community. So in order to make sure that we're functioning, in government as a whole as efficiently as possible, we need to know what all the other hands are doing at the same time. And we're trying to coordinate our overall city response in every one of those categories, upwards towards the county, the state, and the federal level, to make sure that we're staying up on what the situational briefings are. I try and forward information to the council members as it becomes, as it comes to us, but certainly if there's any specifics that you're really wanting to know about, please reach out to us and let me know. But again, we're really running into a shortage of resources as far as physical resources for the police department, specifically in PPE. We're also short on manpower right now. If we lose another officer, we'll probably be having somebody from other communities patrolling based on staffing shortages. So hopefully we'll try and get one back. But if as the pandemic hits, or as we're told to start bracing for reduced staffing based on what they've seen in every other community, we're trying to figure out what does that look like for us. We were in the hiring process for a couple of part-time officers. We're trying to get them on, but as you know, with social distancing, it's really hard to do a field training officer program. Something as simple as that, law enforcement agencies everywhere are struggling with what does a field training program look like when you can't put two people in a car together. And they're real challenges. So everything that we're doing, we're creating new processes and new ways of doing business in just about everything that we're doing, and we're doing it with less people. And we're being told to expect to have, at some point, 40 to 80% of all people in Minnesota are anticipated to contract that. So It's a big mountain to climb, and we realize we're on step one, especially with the anticipated peak, 13 to 14 weeks out. So we know we're in a marathon, and right now we're just trying to get all of our ducks in a row, get everything is organized so that we become as modular as possible. That if we lose an employee in one capacity, that it's organized with checklists that another employee can step into their role and keep things going. With the governor's shelter-in-place order, that's something that's obviously on our radar, but in a similar tone as the business order, it's really focused on education and voluntary compliance. We're not going out looking for people and checking to see if a person has has any credentials when they're traveling. Our goal really in police right now is we're trying to provide basic services, and it's that way across public safety, in fire, police, and then, as you know, any of the emergency management functions are through the roof on bandwidth right now. That's really the update that I have right now, and I'd be willing to stay up here for any staff questions that you would have for Brad or I on our updates before he gets into his business session.
Any questions from council?
I just
What
have,
is it driving the lack of employees right now? I mean, we don't have anybody that's in the department that has contracted the virus, correct?
I can't get into the reasons that they're on medical leave right now, the ones that are out, and that's about all I can say publicly, so.
Well, Matt, do you want to get into our issue of part-time though? That's,
Yeah, I mean, one of the, part-time, the availability of part-time officers has been significant over time, and that's, we've struggled to add part-timers for the last couple of years, mostly just with the market change. People aren't staying in the profession anymore, and they're choosing other options. We've lost 1 or 2 part-timers to jobs at the airport and at Three Rivers Park District. Some of it's pay, some of it's the type of work that they're doing, and other parts of it are we're seeing less people enter the law enforcement part-time workforce. So we're really struggling to find good candidates. And the type of candidates that we're having to look at now is, for the first time, we're looking at part-time officers who have very limited or no law enforcement experience, which require a full 16-week field training program, which is, it's a tough pill to swallow when it's for a part-time position, but we're left without any other options. So we're stuck investing more into employees that are working less, just so that we can start getting the coverage.
So let me follow up on that, Matt. Is this, so you can't tell us why that is, are they expected to return, or is this a temporary thing, or is this not?
Yeah, I don't have a timeline on them though. I'm not their medical provider, and we have to obviously have appropriate documentation for when they go out and when they can come back. And I mean, obviously limited as to what we can talk about in a public forum, and as staff, we can maybe share a little bit more in person, but medical leave is really the only thing that I can share publicly.
I will add that we're under the presumption that will return.
Can we be made aware of whether anybody is applying for COVID-19 compensation?
I don't know.
Push on it.
Right.
That might be just something to think about in the future.
My belief is no, that it's medical data.
But it's not, it's more aimed at our budget, like I said, my reasonable one and more.
I would guess you would be able to have, if I extrapolated past practices, it would be, you could probably have summary data, this much COVID-19 time was used.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, I think that would be probably possible that the city could, but we couldn't do it on an employee basis.
Well, actually not. My interest would be, well, first of all, I want to know if we have cases in the city, I guess, but the vested interest we have as council members is what impact do we have on our budget.
Right, and it's also a little bit more complex in that the testing isn't really available up there. So if there are, for instance, there are people, and then we have employees and family members work in the healthcare system, and they're well in tune with what's happening. But unless a person is hospitalized, those are pretty much the only people in the state that are receiving testing right now. So even if Brad were to go to the hospital and say, I believe I have this, he meets all of the criteria, they'll say, you're not at a point of hospitalization, we won't test you. So there are scenarios where we may be sending employees home saying, because we know either A, they've had a known exposure, or they're exhibiting some symptoms of illness that might be the common cold or influenza, and they might have to use COVID time when we don't know for sure, we might never know if they in fact officially had the virus.
Well, the net result is the same, because if they're sent home because they display some symptoms, it's because of COVID-19 problem, and that's why they're home with an extra. Okay. Thank you. Other questions? Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I just had a couple of questions. Are we looking at rescheduling the firearms field safety day?
Yeah, so obviously, the in-person classes were canceled, and they were gonna try and get a field day scheduled, but we really kind of have to play it by ear with what the social recommendations are at that point. Right now, it's really hard to judge, and I think a lot of people don't know how this curve is gonna go and how far things are gonna play out. I heard, an example that they're talking about, the NCAA is talking about already canceling the football season this next fall because of, we just don't know. So I don't have a predictive date. Obviously, it's something that we believe is important to the city, and it's something that we're going to do if at all possible, but I don't have any way to forecast what that will be.
No, but I think we should keep our options open up until even the beginning of fall, maybe.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is are we instructing officers to try to limit non-essential contact with people?
Yeah, so if it's a known hazard, and there's a really wide range of items here. So we're reducing, our instruction to the officers is really to reduce risk. So if we see somebody that's driving in an unsafe manner, their instructions are there to stop them and take appropriate precautions and appropriate personal protective measures as needed. But if it's, for instance, a medical that's non-life safety, the officers will stage in the area. The medical personnel will attend to the individual needing assistance, and at either the medical personnel's request or fire's request, our officers will don appropriate PPE and assist them, or if that medical decline to a state where it becomes life safety, whether it's heart, breathing, and their response is needed, then they'll put on the appropriate PPE and go in.
All right, just I thought about it after the fact when I got my packet handed to me the other day at the door. I should have just told them to leave it there at the street.
Yeah.
Anyway. That's all I really had.
Just one question, are we remaining coordinated with our neighboring communities for backup service and for sharing the load?
Yeah, we're doing our best. I mean, obviously, as I stated at the last meeting, we just in general being a more thinly staffed city, we run on thinner margins, so we're impacted more quickly. I would say that of our Lakes area group, we'll be the first that's going to need outside assistance, and we're coordinating where that can come from, whether it's someone else in our group to the south or it's a neighbor to the east, and it will depend on the scenario of where we need that fill-in as to where that help comes from. But yeah, the amount of coordinating is mind-boggling right now, just to try and keep track of all of the moving pieces in every organization. That my day is in some form of a meeting or another between cell phone, landline, and virtual meetings. Start at about, I think the first scheduled start is 8:15, so we get the phone call right before then, and then the last scheduled one goes into the evening time. So it's intense coordination, and it's we're going to try and get all the help that we can as we need it.
Great, thank you.
John, did you have anything?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay. Anything else, anybody? Okay. Brad?
Yeah, so with that, again, the request is to have a motion to extend the closure of City Hall to the public through April 24th. The reason behind that is obviously we're in shelter in place through April 10th. And the council meeting will talk about coming up, but with everything we know, we believe closing through April 24th makes the most sense. We also have a council meeting on April 23rd, where we can again consider extending it if need be.
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion to authorize staff to extend the City Hall closure until April 24th.
moved, Patterson.
Second, Schultz.
Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Thomas, aye. Anderson,
Aye.
Otto,
Aye.
Dejewski,
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Thank you. Any other business? Yeah.
This is the council schedule, and actually, Matt, if you can pull up the council schedule, but other than going through it, I also want to talk to the council about considering postponing the April 6th council meeting to April 13th. April 6th wasn't Monday, it was rescheduled because the regular meeting was on Monday, Thursday. April 6th is coming really, really quick, and as far as from ability to put packet materials together, enhance the technology we're using, and just keeping moving forward, it's too fast for us. So I'd like to have the council consider moving it to Monday, April 13th, and keep business moving forward. We actually talked about, can we cancel it? And no, we can't, there's too much going on. So Matt has the schedule up there. So we have the strategic planning recap, the Appaloosa Woods discussion, which can be pushed. We have a lot of openings for materials, awarding bids, so asphalt, gravel, seal coat, fog seal, and a bunch of updates that just have to happen. So we have to have the meeting, and if possible, I'd like to move it to April 13th if that works for the council.
Any questions from council? I guess the issue would be if we knew there were a couple, three people who couldn't make it, we should speak up now. But this is the day after Easter, so Easter Sunday.
I'll be home.
You need a motion, that's right.
Yeah, and I guess one more note to that point. The other thought is April 6th is during the shelter in place. So if we couldn't figure out a way to do business with public presence in a different manner, I don't know if we could hold it during a shelter in place order. So that's another thing I forgot to mention.
Yeah.
But yes, the motion to reschedule the April 6th meeting to April 13th.
I'll entertain a motion to do that.
So moved, Schultz.
Second, Henry.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Thomas, aye. Anderson,
Aye.
Otto,
I'm thinking about taking my spring break down to Florida Beach that day. So I'm not sure I can make it.
was that an
Aye. Sounds like it.
No discussion during the board, John. Dejewski
Aye.
and Schultz.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there any further business from council, from staff? Anything else from council?
I just, I'm thinking about that point that somebody brought up at open forum maybe a month or two back about